Here. Councilman Susie?
Here.
Councilman Ward?
Here.
President Gendron?
Here. First item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the building capital improvement 5-year plan, capital plan, with the school department and the administration. So, who would like to begin?
Thank you, Council President, councilors.
Good evening.
Good evening. So this evening, I'm joined by the Superintendent of Schools, Patrick McGee, from the Rhode Island Department of Health, Mario Carreño, and our Finance Director, Brad Priea. We're here this evening on behalf of not only ourselves, but also the school committee and the many folks who have been anxiously awaiting for us to take on the challenge of our schools. There's a resolution before you. We are fortunate enough to be looking for a $150 million school improvement plan. Some of the plan will be to update make some repairs to some of the newer schools, like the middle schools in Harris, and then the rest of the funds would be really focused on the elementary schools, and still determining which schools would be retrofit, which schools would be raised and rebuilt. All of that will come later. What this is this evening is just to get the support of the council for us to move forward to request from the state a project that would amount to approximately $150 million. With a 94% reimbursement rate, we would be looking at $9 million coming from other than the state and $141 million coming from the state. So we feel that with that amount of money, we can go across the board and address all elementary schools, any middle school improvements, high school, etc., and really change the landscape and dynamic of our school system.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Dr. McGee?
Thank you, Mayor, Council President, members of the Council. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the community, for the city of Woonsocket. As Mayor Baldelli Hunt just stated, we have an opportunity to replace and to retrofit and to make the necessary modifications to most of the schools in the district. Specifically, we would be focusing on the elementary schools. As the Mayor said, we haven't made any final decisions with respect to what that's going to look like, but we're just here this evening to seek your support to move forward to receive these funds from the state. So again, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for our kids here in Woonsocket. Some of you may be aware of the Jacobs report, which was submitted in 2017, which was a facilities report of all school buildings throughout the state of Rhode Island. And in Woonsocket, we had 4 elementary schools which were labeled in not only need of repair, but replacement candidates. So that is certainly part of this project as well. So again, it's an opportunity for us to provide our students, our families, and our community with an incredible education here in Woonsocket, and it starts with the facilities. And this is a wonderful opportunity. So I thank you for hearing us this evening, and I'm going to turn over the mic to Mr. Perrier, our Director of Finance and Administration. Did you, or Mario, do you want to? Sure.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Mario Carreño from the School Building Authority at RIDE. This is a great time to seize these new schools. So the idea behind this is to follow the model of Central Falls last year, where historically with housing aid, even though you can get up to 90% reimbursement, you have to front the money first to then get back reimbursement. So I don't even believe that there is, in theory, even $150 million of bonding capacity with the city. So Central Falls didn't have it. So what the state did was they put up their piece and then the local community puts up theirs. So in this case, the goal is that the state would issue it's a $140 million bond, and then Woonsocket, through either a combination of perhaps a bond or funds from the district, funds from the ARPA funds that you may have available, would come up with your local piece. So that you're not issuing $150 million on your books. You're only issuing your piece. Perhaps you may not even issue any debt. So other things that are opportune time for you, we have the highest reimbursement rate you've had on record, 94%, which is the goal here. That is huge. We also have two new upfront PAYGO. We have PAYGO, which provides upfront funding, as well as the new Facility Equity Initiative, which we were fortunate to receive, I think, almost $1 million to do work at your high school. As part of the governor's budget, there's a $50 million facility equity amount in there that would give Woonsocket additional opportunities, even above the 150 that we're seeking here. So I think it's a great time. Hopefully we can get the support here to continue to move forward and start petitioning the General Assembly, the governor's office. But the RIDE is 100% on board with supporting the city of Woonsocket. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
Brad Perrier, Director of Finance for the Woonsocket Education Department. And again, to reiterate what everybody said this evening, this is a very exciting opportunity that we have in front of us. I'm actually here to talk about the local piece of the funding quickly right now. Right now, the school department, as you may or may not have be aware, just recently passed our ESSER 3 budget. Right now, we are kind of going back to the drawing board on that, and we're looking to utilize some of these dollars through ESSER 3, either directly or indirectly, to help fund this project. And finally, we also have some money to fall back on as far as our capital improvement fund and our fund balance. So we're working through all those ideas right now with the Department of Ed and with our school committee. But we feel that this is just too good of an opportunity. The reimbursement rate we're receiving, we're able to do a lot of good work, I think, with this money for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Brad, if you could,
Councilman Ward.
could you define your acronym for us, for the public, please? Yeah, ESSER 3 funds?
Oh, those are, you're going to put me on the spot here. Elementary and, you know this one?
Let's call it the Education Department version of ARPA funds?
Yeah, there you go.
Rescue plan money?
Okay, yeah, it is
It's administered through the state, correct?
Absolutely correct, yes. That is the educational side of the ARPA funds. That's what we've been dealing with. We've received ESSER 1 funds, ESSER 2, and now ESSER 3. Just so you know, the ESSER 3 funds do total $29.1 million. So we do have quite a bit of money to work with there. And it's my hope that we really can offset a lot of this cost through that grant.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think in the discussions that we've had, there will be many more discussions with the school committee, the administration, and the city council going forward. But tonight, all we're going to be doing is taking up a resolution in support of basically holding our place, getting our piece of the pie, and that'll be coming up in the regular meeting by way of a resolution. So that being said, if anyone has a specific question for anyone that just spoke, if not, we will take up the details of this at the regular meeting. We're not going to get into the resolution at this point.
Mr. President,
Councilman Gillette.
just a quickie. The new schools, do you have locations for them already?
That'll be a discussion that will take place, and that's what we had talked about.
I thought they were leaving.
No.
You're staying for the council meeting itself? Okay, well, I can ask it then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gillette. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez, seconded by Councilman Canoia to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 6:55. We will be coming back live at 7 p.m. for our regular meeting. I'd like to call this meeting of the Woonsocket City Council to order for Monday, February 7th, 2022. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Here.
Councilwoman Gonzalez? Here. Councilman Gillette?
Here.
Councilwoman Sierra? Here. Councilman Susie?
Here.
Councilman Ward?
Here.
President Gendron.
Here, we do have a quorum. If you could please stand for the prayer and the pledge.
God our Father, we ask that you send your blessing upon this city and upon this council. Guide us in our efforts, increase our motivation, and strengthen our resolve to build a better community and ensure a brighter future for the city of Woonsocket. This we ask in your name. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing, Madam Clerk.
22 LC 03, public hearing on first-class victualling license by Kimochi LLC at 43 Railroad Street.
This is a public hearing that is being held live this evening and on Zoom. So I would request that if there is anybody here, that you please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone and voice your interest or objection. And if there is anyone that is on Zoom with us, I would ask that you raise your hand, and the clerk will unmute you at the right time so that you can make your comments via Zoom. First, we will go with the people that are live in Harris Hall.
Mike Bryce, Interim Director of Plan and Development for the City of Woonsocket.
Good evening.
Thank you. Well, we're 100% supportive of businesses in the City of Woonsocket. We do request that a couple of things be followed, and we just feel that for this application that there's a couple of things that need to be noted before this seems to become a little bit too quick in front of the council. Our planning department, through our business inspection office, has no plans on this, nor have we issued any permits of the build out within inside the building of 43 Railroad Street for this particular building. This building is going to have a entrance and exit that's designed to come in from a stairwell on James Street. That stairwell, even though it's started with construction, is started without plans and permits and hasn't been approved by the Director of Public Works nor the City Council. The applicant's already come into our office through the Bill Inspection Office inquiring about a certificate to occupy, and we are still working on this tax stabilization agreement with the building owner, which prevents us from issuing any COs at this time. Now, I know that this isn't a certificate to occupy, this is just their license, but we just feel that if we're already granting the license, it's going to be that much harder for our office just to keep everything in line. And again, we're all for this business. We want to see it open. We just think that it just needs to be tabled until we get the plans of the building. We don't even know what we're putting on the inside of the structure yet. So that's all we're asking through our office, is just to table it for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, yes, but we haven't taken up this item yet. This is just a public hearing. But so now, Councilman Canoia.
Could you just, is this 43 Railroad Street, is this the building that's being renovated?
Yes,
The
sir.
large brick building? behind?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Are there any other questions for the director? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to address the city council either for or against this application? Hearing none live, are there any on Zoom? If there is anyone on Zoom that would like to address the city council, I would ask that you please raise your hand. And we hear none. So with that being said, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So move, Jim.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Gillette and Councilwoman Sierra to close this public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed. We can now stop the Zoom streaming, and the rest of this meeting can be viewed live on the City Council YouTube channel, and it is also being broadcast on WOON live at this point. Moving on to the agenda for Board of License Commissioners.
22 LC 03, application of first-class victualling license by Kimochi LLC at 43 Railroad Street.
Motion to table.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Gillette to table 22 LC 03. Let's do a roll call, Madam Clerk, on a tabling motion.
Councilman Canoyer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
Councilman Ward?
Yes.
President Gendron.
Yes, and 22 LC 03 is tabled 7-0. Madam Clerk, I would ask that it come back to the City Council only after all of the requirements are met as described by the Planning Director.
Will do.
Thank you.
22 LC 04, application of licenses and renewal of licenses.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the following license: an amendment for coin-operated machine, also new license for Class F liquor, no entertainment, Class F1 liquor with entertainment, and also renewals for street vendor.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette,
Seconded.
seconded by Councilwoman Sierra and Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 22 LC 04 is approved unanimously, 7-0. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Councilman
Second.
Canoyer, seconded by Councilman Ward to accept the consent agenda as presented. Are there any items to be taken up separately? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is approved, 7-0. Approval and correction of the minutes of the regular meeting held January 24th, 2022.
Motion to approve?
Motion made by Councilwoman
Second.
Sierra, seconded by Councilman Gillette. Are there any changes, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And the minutes from the regular meeting held January 24th, 2022 are approved as presented, 7-0. Moving on to presentations of petitions, memorials, and, you know what, before we do this, could I have a motion to take out of order 22R15 so that we can get our
So moved.
motion made by Councilman Canoyer, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez to take out of order 22R15. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R15 is before us. Madam Clerk?
Authorizing the administration to pursue funding for building capital improvements, 5-year capital plan.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez and Councilman Ward. Comments?
Council President,
Councilman Ward.
I think this resolution is doing what the city should do to pursue this funding. However, I have an amendment to offer. In that, in Section 1, after the word administration, we could insert the phrase "to work in conjunction and coordination with the Woonsocket School Committee and Education Department." And following that, it says pursue and request funding for the building capital improvements 5-year capital plan. And then in addition to the Department of Education, I would like that it specifically say Rhode Island Department of Education, and then the finish of Section 1. And then I would like to add Section 2 and renumber Section 2 to Section 3, and the new Section 2 to read that any additional application documents associated with the building capital improvements / 5-year capital plan associated with or deriving from this application will require the consideration and approval by resolution of the Woonsocket City Council prior to submission to the Rhode Island Department of Education.
Second
That's
that.
the entirety of the amendment.
A motion is made by Councilman Ward, seconded by Councilman Canoyer to amend 22R15. Comments on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R15 is amended 7-0. On the main motion as amended, comments?
Council President,
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I had the honor to serve in the school committee about 8 years ago, and I worked under this administration with Dr. McGee, and Brad Prayer was also the finance director. And I remember us looking to pinch pennies to patch up schools. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I am very excited about it. I know that with every capital funding, there is a lot of requirements and a lot of process that need to take place. And I do recall that in the past, with our experience, Woonsocket was actually commended out of a lot of other schools in the way that they handle and manage all of the finances. So I have confidence in this administration, and I am so excited that something like this opportunity will come to our city and improve the very much needed schools that we just need it, and
Very
it's
good.
great.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Council President.
Councilman Ward.
I've heard a lot of chatter, and frankly, I've lived long enough to actually watch Ms. Hawkins' house get torn down and live across the street while Savoy School was built in 1962. But to look at, speaking of once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, all of the buildings we're talking about replacing were built in 1958, 1960, 1962, and 1963. And many will tell you that you simply need to maintain buildings, and you do, but they still won't last forever. And some of these buildings just simply are beyond what I would consider sufficiently able to be repaired in order to function in what can only be considered the need for a 21st century educational environment. And so with this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I support taking advantage of it and doing what's necessary to find a way to affordably for the city, find a way to replace these buildings and start new in the 2020s to replace the 1960s.
Very good.
I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ward. Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Councilman Gillette.
the only comment I have is that I also am glad that this is happening, but I'm looking at the ages of these schools that are going to be replaced, and I don't feel that we got our money's worth. 55, 60 years, in my opinion, with the technology today in building, you know, that 50, 60 years is nothing. They should last 70, 75, 80 years, and I think that we need to make a point to make sure that whoever's overseeing these projects, once they start happening, you know, kind of make sure that the quality is there so that they can actually last longer, so that we can get more for the buck. That's going to be my number one criteria as we go along on this project.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Gillette. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R15 is approved unanimously, 7-0 as amended. Congratulations, gentlemen. Have a good night, and you're welcome to stay. I know you might have nothing better to do.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going back to the regular order of business, presentations of petitions, memorials, and remonstrances. Madam Clerk.
22P04, a request of Chief Oates to address the City Council regarding bid for the flock camera system.
Chief Oates, Councilman, just so you know, Councilman Vice President Ward passed out your response, so we all have that paperwork in front of us. But please take it away.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure that you had, I knew that that was probably going to be presented to you, but in case you had any further questions, sorry. In case you had any further questions of me or any further explanation on that document, I'll just briefly go over it. The bids were opened on January 10th. Myself and my staff looked at the three bidders. One of them was the highest bidder, which was $130, which we didn't really, to be honest, put too much look into. We looked into the middle bidder, which is Flock, which actually will turn out to be the low bidder. We had follow-up conversations with Flock. They remained steadfast in their commitment and what they offered in their bid. We did make conversation with Neology. After speaking with them and asking some follow-up questions, they responded back to some of the information that you actually see in that document there, were things that were not specifically included in their dollar figure that they put forward for their bid. Some of those key items would be the air card or system that would be used to transport the data to get it from the cameras to the cloud to where they go. That would be a monthly fee associated, and then that somewhere that for the 3-year period would be close to an additional $27,000. The other issue was that Flock is soup to nuts as far as putting the cameras up, maintaining them, installing them, and that. This company was going to require us as a city to come forward with, if it was going to be a 110 power source, to actually provide that power source so that they would have to plug in. That would be an additional expense as far as that goes. They also themselves don't have the ability to do the solar panel solution for it, which will be probably what will be mostly used in the city due to some of the camera locations that we have. And with that, they would have to go to a third-party vendor, and that would be also another expense. In addition to that, probably the most important thing, those other two vendors would not be allowed to be shared with what Flock sees and shares. Flock is proprietary with their product. They won't share it with another camera system due to competition. Flock right now is in negotiations with, I know, numerous other police departments in Rhode Island. They have Cranston besides us now. They have Gloucester. They have numerous departments in Massachusetts. I know they're in talks with Providence alone to maybe go as high as 85 cameras. North Providence is in conversation with them, so is East Providence. So as I see this Flock system that we're getting involved in will be built out in the state within the next 6 months to a year, and maybe go as many as 200 cameras. So instead of us having access to simply 15 cameras on our own network system to deal with what we see in the city, we will actually have access to all these other cameras, even their nationwide products. So I feel that Flock is definitely the way that we should go.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for the Chief? You know what? Let's save the questions till we get to the resolution for this funding. Are you all set, Chief, with that?
Yes, I just want to make sure, I didn't know the protocol, if you would need to speak to me now or at the.
You're sticking around, though, right?
I'm sticking around.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
22P05, request of Councilman Canoia to address the City Council regarding the following item, Cass Park redevelopment improvements.
I'll be brief. I apologize. So at the last meeting, Director, you brought us up to date on the gravel bids and where we stand with that, and the intention to further refine the approach, and that we'd have some meetings in the future. And at that meeting, I think I said, I've looked at this with an open mind, and I do, and I'm trying to be very supportive, and I will be. But I also indicated that we should also be prepared, if necessary, to potentially, and I emphasize the word potentially pivot to the original plan from 2017, the Cass Park Master Plan, which had us essentially repaving, resurfacing the existing track, and cleaning up the field and putting in synthetic at that field. Not suggesting that we have to do that, but at least be open-minded to it if necessary. Point being, I'm trying to be very constructive and supportive, and I was a little surprised to hear you on the radio 2 days later with the city's foremost media mogul, Roger Bouchard, on WNRI, when that came up about the old plan, and you indicated, I think you said, the problem with the existing track is it's a little short. It's about 5 feet short of North Smithfield and 50 feet narrower, and would have to be wider. When the sun is shining and the weather's better, you and I can go down there, but I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same size. North Smithfield and Woonsocket tracks are exactly the same size. They're both 22 feet wide. The interior is roughly 202, 201 feet. The length is 530 feet or whatever, but they're exactly the same size. A football field is, regulation size football field is 160 feet wide by 360 feet long, which fits right within that track, just like in North Smithfield. So all I'm saying is, let's all keep an open mind about this, and I'm pretty sure that the track in Woonsocket is not 50 feet narrower than the track in Woonsocket. So
May I?
You may. Correct me, I hope.
I would love to. So I'm not going to disagree with you, and I'll be happy to meet you anytime, anywhere, and we'll go measure that. We'll make a nice day of it. We'll go have something to lunch after. But this map I have here from CAD, our engineering department,
Yep.
it depicts the new field, which on here is 303 feet, 303.5, so 303 feet and a half. And it shows Dion track at 255. So that's a 48-foot discrepancy. But I did not measure it with the wheel. In all.
Yeah.
So having said that, that wouldn't allow enough of a buffer between the actual football field and the track, such as the North Smithfield field does.
Yeah, so, and that's fair. So what we'll do, and you're right, we'll make a day of it.
Yeah.
We'll go to the Dion track, and then we'll take a ride up to the hometown of North Smithfield, and you'll see they're exactly the same width, the exact same measurements of the Dion track and the North Smithfield track, exactly the same. So the 300 and something odd feet that you're referencing in that CAD is interesting, and I'd be happy to look at it, but the two tracks are exactly the same. The football field in North Smithfield, which is within that track, no different than what we could do in Woonsocket. And I'm not saying we have to do that, but I'm just...
Yeah, and,
So-
and just, here's the other problem I have with that approach, okay? And I'm open-minded.
Yeah.
A, it doesn't create any parking for a facility, any more than what we have. Whereas the Dion track's going to create about 200 spaces. B, it doesn't generate any revenue from removing that mound of material, okay, to offset the cost. And C, for me personally, if I'm going to have my name on it, I don't want to see that mound there when I'm at that track. I want to see the school from the Dion track, the other fields that are below, and the basketball court. So it's a whole, it's like a vision.
I understand.
So,
And again, I don't want to get into, to be honest with you, I don't want to get into a discussion or a debate about the various alternatives and all that. That wasn't the intent here. It was just simply to suggest to you that I don't believe it's a correct statement to say that the Dion track is 50 feet narrower than the North Smithfield track. I'm quite certain of that, but we can go look at it. We can have as you said before, we'll have work sessions to kind of hash through what the vision is, the plan, and we'll see actual plans and costs, and we can hash through it. And again, I'm supportive of what you're suggesting. I'm just simply saying, by the same token, if we don't get investors, so far we don't. We've had, we put out an RFP and we don't have a bid right now. So I'm simply suggesting that as an alternative, we may have to be open-minded to go back to the old way and get 85 or 90% of what we're looking for. But again, all that is ground to be plowed later on in the right venues. I'm just suggesting that if someone actually checks it, you'll see that the North Smithfield track and the Dion track are exactly the same size. They're both regulation tracks, and one is not wider than the other. There may be a proposal to make a wider track somewhere, but the existing track is not 50 feet wider, or 50 feet narrower than what is over in North Smithfield.
you want to bet lunch on that?
We'll bet K's, steak sandwich, and lobster roll, surf and turf.
Open bar, too.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
All set, Councilman?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, yeah. Guess who's going to end up at K's tonight? Moving on to unfinished business of previous meetings.
22001, authorizing an amendment of the lease of the water tower space to Celco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Ward and Councilman Gillette. Comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoyer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
Councilman Ward?
Yes.
President Gendron.
Yes, and 22001 is approved. Second passage, 7-0. Moving on to new business, Madam Clerk.
22002, transferring funds from City Capital Fund to Public Safety.
Motion
Police.
approved.
Motion made by Councilman Ward,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Canoyer. Comments? Just for the public's sake, this is regarding a resolution which we'll be taking up shortly to fund the flock camera system that the chief spoke to us about earlier. And this is simply moving the money from the city capital fund into the police department's fund. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
Councilman Ward?
Yes.
President Jensen.
Yes, and 22002 is approved, 7-0.
22R 8008, sorry. Authorizing the cancellation of certain taxes.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Ward, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments?
Council President.
Councilman Ward.
This is a list of several abatements totaling $5,822.12.
Thank you very much, Council Vice President. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 22R08 is approved, 7-0.
22R09, authorizing the cancellation of certain taxes.
Motion to move.
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez,
Second for discussion.
seconded by Councilman Ward. Comments?
Council President,
Councilman Ward.
anybody tell us where Fuji operates, that they had $25,000 worth of assets that left?
I did ask assessing. I believe it's a piece of medical equipment, but I don't know exactly.
Okay, so it could be a leased medical equipment,
Right.
like an MRI machine or
Right.
something. But do we know where that asset is being used?
I didn't ask that. I can ask it. We could table it and I can get more information.
But it's simply that the lease ran out or the equipment was removed. And that's why it's...
It was a disposal, it says, so.
Okay, if I could ask, if we could get more detail,
Okay.
I'll approve this evening because it must have had a basis in fact, and so, but I'd appreciate if you could email us what the specifications are about, more about what it was and/or who was using the equipment under lease, so we
Right,
know
no, that makes
where it
sense.
came from. Thank you. All set.
Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Councilman Gillette.
who made the mistake? Was it because the company didn't inform the city, or is it because the city just didn't see it?
I don't know. I assume if they filed their annual return, I don't know. It was an error made.
Yeah, okay, I get the same question on the next one, too.
Well, Director, maybe when you get the information for Councilman Ward, you can just ask that question.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? And you're not requesting a tabling, right?
No. I'm confident that the equipment's gone, and I expect the same thing as with the next one, and to sort of a response to Councilman Gillette, and she alluded to it, is it's tangible taxes are self-reporting systems, and they could have had a clerical error that included something that they had gotten rid of, or it's that the leasing company did not realize that the equipment was removed or the lease expired, because this actually would have been Fuji, not whoever had the equipment, reporting this. And so it's Valhalla, New York that failed, and that's not uncommon, that they will fail to pick up on something that changed, and because it's self-reporting, somebody sends in a piece of paperwork and they find out later that it got screwed up. So
We'll get
these
the
things
answer,
can happen.
so. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 22R09 is approved, 7-0.
22R10, authorizing the cancellation of certain taxes.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
made by Councilman Ward, seconded by Councilman Gillette. Comments?
Council
President.
President. Go ahead.
Councilman Gillette?
Yeah, as I was going to say, this one here is similar, but in this part of the explanation, it says, as a result, their tangible account should have been deactivated. Did they notify the city that it bothers me that this stuff comes to the city council. It has to come through the city council. It creates work downstairs, okay? And it's work that doesn't necessarily have to be done like this if it's done right the first time, and that's why I'm opening my mouth. I should have opened my mouth years ago on something like this, but anyway, I'm curious, to where the blame lies as to why these errors are being made. Look at the extra work. Extra work for the department downstairs, extra work for the city clerk, extra work for the city council, and whoever else is involved. Thank you, Mr. President.
Council
President.
Councilman Ward?
Council President?
Councilman Gillette, I mean, you do understand we have been without an assessor for quite some time, and we're trying to get, correct the things that, that we find that have been accumulating, so.
Councilman Ward?
So because we're short on staff, we're going to accept mistakes now? Is that what you're saying?
No, absolutely not. I don't accept mistakes, but we don't have someone in this position right now. So, I mean, we are doing the best we can, so. During this time, these were bills that went out, in July and August, and we had no one in that position. We did the best we could, so.
Sir? Councilman Ward?
Council President, I just, by way of explanation, I cannot assume that this is a mistake by the staff here, especially in light of this being medical equipment. This is another Alliance Healthcare Services, which I assume is a piece of medical equipment that was either in a doctor's office, an emergency care facility. This could be equipment that formerly was in the building at Cummings Way, or it could be equipment that was at other doctor's offices that was where the office was closed or relocated, and the company that provided the list simply did not update it, and it was only later that they were made aware of the fact that when they got a bill in 2021, which would have happened in July, they probably started looking through what they were paying for. They probably caught it, or the medical facility may have had to pay the bill. This is not uncommon, where these large leasing companies, it happens with motor vehicles too, where the leasing companies just don't update their information timely. We send out a bill based on what they provide. Then something gets corrected after they get the bill, and they say, wait a minute, something changed. They're not perfect, and I don't think the city or its staff, just like my staff, doesn't always have the intuitive ability to actually know that, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so closed his office. So I don't think this situation is something where there's so much blame to go around, as much as we'd like to see that it not happen, but I think in these leasing situations, I think it can happen. If you told me that a building was gone but it was still standing, yeah, that's not acceptable. But when you have something like this, I'm sorry, I'm too close to it in Lincoln. It can happen. It does happen. We've had it happen with medical equipment there and leases, and so I'm glad it didn't go into 3 years. Let's just put it that way. Before somebody picked it up, whether it's them or us, and it gets corrected, so that when 2022's bill come out, they won't include these items, and we won't be doing it again. But I appreciate that it's a problem, but it's not that uncommon, and sometimes it's caught and sometimes it's not. So I will not be quite so harsh, because I deal with this pretty much every day. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman
Mr.
Ward.
President,
Councilman Gillette.
for the second time. I don't know if you noticed that the, at least Pear's name is on here. Here we have an ex-tax assessor working part-time hours in the city of Woonsocket. And I'm not sure, no, she wasn't working here when this actually happened, it looks like. But we are paying someone at least to work part-time hours in that office. So, I'm just curious to hear what you're going to have to, what you have to say as far as who the blame is. I'm just plain curious, and I got the right to know. Thank you.
Council President?
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
So the code on the Alliance Healthcare Services says that it was relocated out of the city prior to the assessment. I know I've heard quite a few times during our meetings, we did not have a tax assessor for a long time. Right now, even this is as an interim city tax assessor. So obviously there's a lot of things that the date of the assessment, we're behind on our assessments. So it says it clearly there. To me, it was relocated out of the city prior to when we were able to get an assessment done. And I don't think it's, I mean, for me, it's, I'm surprised that there's not more stuff coming to us when we haven't had anyone in that position. So I hear you when you're saying they're just playing catch up, and hopefully once we have someone permanently in that position, we won't have to see these things coming up to us.
Thank you. Director, maybe going forward, we could just include the location in the letter where it was located. It might just avoid some of the questions.
Understood.
Thank you.
Council President?
Mayor?
Thank you. I just want to thank Councilman Ward for the explanation. I think it was really unnecessary to be so aggressive with the director. It's common. It's going to happen whether we have an assessor or we don't have an assessor. These are things that take place. You have to understand the process, like Councilman Ward understands this because this is what he lives each day. It is not uncommon. There are many medical facilities within the city, in particular machines like that come and go, that get taxed, that shouldn't be taxed. It happens in hospitals. It happens many places. So, you know, understanding a little more background is not a bad thing to have, as in the description, as was just stated. But Councilman Ward was very detailed in his explanation, and it happens in all 39 cities and towns. And I think it's pretty clear what happened by the explanation from the councilman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 22R10 is approved, 7-0.
22R11, appointing Judith Potter as a member of the Woonsocket Harris Public Library Board of Trustees.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Ward, seconded by Councilman Canoyer. Comments? I just have one. I'd like to thank Ms. Potter for stepping forward. I think she'll be great on the Library Board of Trustees, and anyone who volunteers to work on these boards should be commended. So thank you very much, Judith. And any other comments?
Council President?
Councilman Ward.
Just to reiterate your thanks to Ms. Potter, and I believe that still leaves us with a vacancy on the library board.
I believe there is.
There's still another vacancy and others, so please, anyone, if they're interested, there are vacancies on boards in the city that need to be filled, and we will appreciate all your support and help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 22R11 is approved, 7-0.
22R12, granting permission to use city property.
Motion? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion, Mr. President.
Motion made by Councilman Susi.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Ward. Comments?
That would be Canoyer.
What did I say?
Ward.
Wow. Sorry about that.
Must be your bad ear.
Any comments? I just have a comment. Madam Clerk, we've had this discussion many years in a row. With this individual requesting the use to use city property, tying it up, and then do the events generally happen?
Not of late.
So, Director, do you know if September 3rd and 4th is a popular weekend for River Island Art Park?
Yeah, it can be busy. Yeah.
So, what I've been seeing is that these weekends are requested. The block is placed on that weekend. Nobody else gets to use it, and then nothing happens.
Right.
So I just wanted to make the council aware of that. We can certainly approve it. There was a $35 fee paid for the application, but I don't know that we want to, I believe that's Labor Day weekend,
Yeah, it's close to it. Yeah.
so.
The park superintendent did recommend that we only do the Saturday and make the Sunday a rain date instead of giving both dates.
And that's the way it was advertised, so September 3rd and a rain date of the 4th. Okay?
Yeah, the 5th is Labor Day, so.
Okay. Any other comments?
Council President,
Councilwoman Sierra.
I have a quick question for the clerk, and you may not know this, but maybe just a rough idea of the amount of times that it happens versus it doesn't of late.
To my knowledge, I don't think any of his events have gone through. If any, maybe one in the past 7-8 years since I've been here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. President?
Councilman Susi.
Just a note that he does state in his letter that his last one was canceled because of weather, so maybe he would have had it. But
No, and
Yeah.
I understand. I just wanted to make it a statement because,
I agree.
okay. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, let's do a roll call.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susi?
Yes.
Councilman Ward?
Yes.
President Gendron.
Yes, and 22R12 is approved 7-0.
22R13, authorizing the mayor to utilize consultant services for drafting, researching, and posting of RFPs.
Motion move.
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Canoyer. Comments?
Council President,
Councilman Canoyer.
this is a resolution to authorize the use of 15,000 of opera funds for the purposes of hiring outside consultants to assist with RFPs. I have a hard time. I will not support using opera funds for this. We have an administrator. What I will do is I'll offer the following amendment. Section 1, it says, the Woonsocket City Council hereby authorizes the allocation of $15,000 to be transferred from the opera fund. So I would delete opera funds and say transferred from the engineering department and/or another department as determined by the finance director for purposes of administration to hire, utilize outside consultants, et cetera. So, and I say the engineering department because we have an open solid waste position since Mr. DeBrois has moved over to planning. So there's a position there that's open that should provide some excess funds. And there's a few other spots, and I'll be happy to talk to you about them. I'm sure you can figure them out. But so I don't think we should use the opera funds for this. But I think if there are funds available within the general fund budget, if you want to reallocate them instead of, to bring in someone to help out with the RFPs for $15,000, I think we can do that. But so I make that.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Gillette. Comments on the amendment? Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I just have a question. Is the money there in those positions? Do we know? Or because is it open to be hired and somebody?
Well, it's been open now for a little while, and
Okay.
Even if somebody's hired, they're not going to use the money that's.
I'm just
been
wondering, does it equal or whatever? Do we have? I just want to confirm we have it.
we have 22 open positions in the city that haven't been filled, so there's excess funds across the board. That was just a recommendation, but that's why I said and or other.
We should find it, yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none on the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R13 is before us as amended. On the main motion as amended, comments?
Mr. President,
Councilman Gillette.
did we have someone working in Woonsocket for the city that used to do this type of work?
So the city charter calls for a purchasing agent in the city. We don't have a purchasing agent. We really do need a purchasing agent. We have a purchasing clerk. The purchasing clerk does not have the knowledge of a purchasing agent. It's a different position. So in particular with all the RFPs that need to go out pertaining to ARPA projects that were approved, that was why it was put in from ARPA. So when we're looking at the list of approved projects, the supermajority of those you need to have RFPs for. So somebody needs to write those RFPs. The purchasing clerk does not have that capacity to do that. So that's why this is on. And actually, I apologize. I forgot what your actual question was.
Well, the reason I opened my mouth on other legislation, I'm opening my mouth on this legislation, is to point out that we have a lot of open positions in the city of Woonsocket. And let's face it, the buck stops in your office, Mayor. You're not doing a good enough job getting people in here to do the work.
Councilman, the council did not approve the funds.
I didn't interrupt you when you were talking.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Never mind.
I suggest you give us your recommendations as how to fill vacant positions, okay? You can talk to the director, who has more vacant positions than anyone else in the city of Woonsocket, and he cannot find people to fill positions. We barely have positions open in departments, but we're talking about major positions like a purchasing agent, which was not funded in the budget, a tax assessor, which is extremely difficult to find across the state, which Councilman Ward can attest to that, and there are other municipalities who do not have tax assessors also. So we're talking about spending $36 million, and we need to put RFPs out. We need someone to draft the RFPs, or we cannot get the projects moving. I mean, we have a position in inspection that we've posted probably 6 to 8 times. We do not have people who are qualified who are applying for the job, or they're failing the test. We finally believe we have someone to fill that position. This is an issue across the country. You see it across the small business community in the city of Woonsocket. There are help wanted signs everywhere. People cannot find employees, and the city of Woonsocket is no different. Every department wants every position filled. It puts a lot of stress on the rest of the employees when those positions are not filled. And we need to move these projects along, and the only way we can move them is to put the RFPs out.
The company that you're going to be hiring, are you done? I'm sorry.
No, we're not looking to hire a company. We're looking to hire an individual.
From outside of Woonsocket. They run their own company, is that it?
No. We're looking to hire an individual who has experience in writing requests for proposals. They don't work for a company.
I'm confused. Where did they get the experience?
Because that's what they did for a living.
For another company?
Well, the person that we're looking at, for the most part, worked for the state of Rhode Island. Actually has teaching experience as an adjunct professor, worked at Dean College, Roger Williams University, Fisher College, Johnson & Wales University, National Institute of Government Purchasing, was in the military, was an assistant director for special projects within the Division of Purchasing for the state of Rhode Island, administrator of purchasing systems, purchasing agent and property manager, and was many years ago, without giving his age, at one point in time, many years ago, worked for the city of Woonsocket. Has a bachelor's degree and an MBA, and is certified as a purchasing manager and purchasing officer.
Did you ask him if he wants a full-time job?
Well, if you change it from 15,000, I can do that. But at 15,000, I don't think he'll take a full-time job.
Has the thought ever occurred to go to colleges and see if we can get, what do you call those people that come in?
We've, Councilman,
Interns.
Well, intern as far as medical is concerned, but is it an intern?
No, they're interns.
Still, would still be that way? That has been thought of?
yeah.
Have you?
So can I speak?
Councilman, are you?
Yeah,
Director?
so, yeah, we've posted in colleges and previously, but the mayor's correct. I mean, I'm sure you watch the news, but the country is just, it's in a real bad position. You cannot fill positions. People don't want to work, okay? And they especially don't want to work for municipal governments. So, you know, the private sector offers a lot more opportunities, but, I mean, it's so bad we had to put Mike in planning. But
Without planning on it.
all kidding aside, but
That's cute.
it took 4 months to find a welder at the highway department, and I posted it consecutively. And I interviewed, you know, maybe 4 people in 4 months. 3 were not qualified. They never even welded. So, I mean, it's not easy. You cannot get CDL drivers. I mean, I think they're nationally, they're short 800,000 CDL drivers right now in the country. So, I mean, she's posted the tax assessor. I can't, so many times that I'm nauseous about it. So, it's just nobody wants to work here
Okay, so
or anywhere else.
It sounds like the two of you are as frustrated as I am as far as those positions are
100%.
concerned.
But it's not, you know, it's a
You want a
national
job?
problem.
Huh?
Do you want a job?
I'm retired.
Okay.
I didn't say retarded, I said retired.
So is the $15,000 guy.
Councilman Ward.
Okay. Councilman Gillette, you don't have to answer the question, but do you know what the maximum, the base pay has been set at Amazon for their corporate offices? Corporate workers?
No.
The base pay. The maximum base pay. $350,000. That's how desperate they are to get help. That's Amazon. The most recent salary survey, and I'm going to get to a point on this soon, but the most recent salary survey done by the League of Cities and Towns lists purchasing agents in Cranston, East Providence, Johnston, Lincoln, Middletown, Narragansett, Newport, North Kingstown, North Providence, Pawtucket, Providence, Smithfield, South Kingstown, Warwick, and Westerly. Pretty much every large-sized city and town in the state has a purchasing agent. Our charter calls for us to have a purchasing agent. We have not had a purchasing agent since, I'm guessing, but I believe it was Jerry Moynihan back in the day. Was he the $15,000 guy? And so I'm going to support setting aside $15,000 because I don't want an intern. I want somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody with experience, somebody who's been in purchasing enough and has done enough bids to be efficient in doing the stuff that needs to be done to put out the amount of money's worth of bids we're going to have to put out and the stuff we do day to day, because it's an important job to get it done right. Now, I asked questions just today about the flock camera system that they seemed to be, they may seem aggressive on their face, but they're more protectionist because the document's supposed to say certain things standing alone, and we'll be discussing that later. But that's what purchasing agents do. They protect you on price, they protect you on legal specifications, they protect you on general conditions, they protect you in going to bid and making sure the process is done properly. And this city has been without it for many, many years, and I think it's when you end up short-staffed otherwise, it just makes it that much more burdensome. And I'm sorry, it can't be done for free. That's just not how things work. So I will be supporting this, and I would fully expect and hope that this council will see that it's reasonable to fund a purchasing agent's position, because there's that much work to do, and it should be done right, and it should be done right the first time. So I would hope that next year's budget includes funding for a purchasing agent. We've been running huge surpluses. We've been lowering tax rates. We've been having good collections. There's absolutely no reason not to have the position in there. And then, oh, by the way, once it's in there, depending on what the bids are for, if they are for opera-funded programs, the cost of that purchasing agent's work can be allocated and shared out of the ARPA funding or out of the city's general fund budget. But I'm sorry, I understand the concern about using ARPA funds and how that plays into this, but I struggle in having this city the size it is, with the size budget it has, with the purchasing it does, to not have a purchasing agent to make sure everything is done according to Hoyle. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. 22R13 is approved, 7-0, as presented, as amended.
22R14, authorizing the City of Woonsocket to approve the bid award with Flock Safety for automated license plate cameras, bid number 6055.
Motion to approve?
Motion made by
Second.
Councilwoman Gonzalez, seconded by
Ward.
Councilman Ward. Comments?
Council President.
Councilman Ward.
As you alluded to earlier, well, first, at the appropriate time, we'll be asking that amendment be made in order that we incorporate the memo to describe or amend, or as an addendum to Exhibit A. But earlier today, I had sent an email, and I think it brought this memo to our attention because in just what I've just spoken to, if you look at the bid tabulation sheet, it lists 3 qualified bidders. And in fact, based on this memo, one of those bidders was not a qualified bidder, and there's a section below that lists a space for disqualified by the purchasing agent, which would have occurred if we had a purchasing agent and if this memo coming from the chief were referenced by the purchasing agent in compiling this tabulation. And the reason I brought it up is because when you put a document like this together without very specific explanations of why they didn't qualify, then that company that was the low bidder, using this as the record, could file a claim against you, file litigation, to claim that as the low bidder in a fixed price bid process, they were entitled to be awarded the bid. Now, we have discretion in doing it, but we don't have discretion in not explaining why we're disqualifying someone. And it's supposed to be on the record, and I'm glad that it is now, but that's why I brought it up, is more so to protect the process than it is to create a headache for the police chief or the public safety director. It's to protect the city of Woonsocket against somebody saying, wait a minute, I was $38,000 less. I should have gotten that bid because I fulfilled the obligations of the specifications, when in fact they could not. The only other thing I'd like to say about it is, and I mentioned it earlier, Chief and Director, is I really wish this were one of the, what is the software that all the police departments use in coordination with the state police? It's got 3 letters, MIC or
MIC.
MIC?
No,
Or MCA or
MCI.
MCI.
No, it was. IMC, excuse me.
Whatever it is. But whatever it is, it's because it's dictated by the state police, because they're the ones that decided this was the software, that the programs that they were going to use for all of the police departments to communicate information, I believe, is what they do.
One of the reasons Providence was the only one that wasn't on it. The whole state is an IMC. In fact, the whole topic is different. The state is all switching to a
Chief, can you just bring them?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The state is, yes, basically that's one of the main reasons, so that they could talk to each other.
I think in my communication, this is why I had hoped this would be the kind of thing that the state or the state police would have picked up on and said, this is the system the state's going to use, so if you're going to acquire this kind of surveillance system for your community, we've already gone through the bid process, we've selected the vendor, we've selected the product, here, go buy it if you want to. That would have eliminated all of this. Instead of them doing what they did by going to local communities, I think it would have been a better sell to the state, because then they would have set the standard that everybody would have complied with.
I just can't help that we're better than the state. So we're ahead of the game. Cranston's ahead of the game.
Don't think you've surprised me by saying that.
No, I know, but I will. We will take credit when credit is due. This was offered to everybody, okay? They didn't just drop in. Woonsocket took a quick lead on it, so did Cranston, and so that's why we were the ones out in front of it.
But I thank you for this information, and now, before we get into too many other comments, I would simply like to offer an amendment to the resolution to add to Exhibit A the document referenced as specifications not complied with that was distributed to be incorporated into the record associated with Resolution 22R14.
Motion made to amend by Councilman Ward, seconded by Councilman Canoyer. Comments on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R14 is amended to include the specifications not compiled with document. On the main motion as amended, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 22R14 is approved 7-0 as amended. And that closes out our meeting agenda.
Well, then I will make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at
Motion made by Councilman Ward.
8:05.
We have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Gillette to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And this meeting is adjourned at 8:01. Have a good night, everyone.